What happens when a billionaire realizes his money can't buy the one thing his son really needs? Gregory Beckford didn't want to be seen that night. Not by a camera, not by a client, not even by the valet who tried to open his door with a smile too wide for someone making $12 an hour. He waved the kid off with a polite nod and stepped out of his black Audi quietly. His son, Evan, was already waiting on the curb, staring down at the sidewalk like it had answers. Gregory moved to speak, then stopped. What was he going to say? "Happy birthday, buddy? You excited for fried catfish and cornbread?" Evan didn't answer. He hadn't said much all day. Gregory shoved his phone in his pocket and followed the boy toward the entrance of Miss Claudine's table, a modest brick and mortar off Highway 280 in Opelika, Alabama. He'd found it on a parenting blog while scrolling through meetings. Down-home charm, family-owned, and no reservations required. Just what he thought would be safe. Not flashy, not corporate, not like everything else in his life. Inside, the restaurant was warm but not loud. Tables were covered in checkered cloths, mismatched chairs hugged the wooden floor, and the air smelled like butter, sweet tea, and something gently burnt, maybe peach cobbler. A small jazz trio played in the back, soft notes, sax, keys, and a stand-up bass. Nothing theatrical, nothing big. Gregory pulled out a chair for Evan, but the boy hesitated. His movements were slow, careful. Cerebral palsy made every shift of balance a quiet negotiation. Eventually, he sat. Gregory placed his napkin in his lap, glanced at the menu, and checked his phone. 3 new emails, one flagged as urgent. He looked up. Evan hadn't touched the menu. "You want to try the mac and cheese, bud? Says it's award-winning." Evan shrugged. Gregory tried again. "Or maybe the fried chicken? They say it's better than Popeyes. And I know you love Popeyes." Another shrug, eyes still down. Gregory looked around. No one recognized him. No one whispered or stared. No paparazzi. No potential investors. Just folks eating quietly and talking about their day. He exhaled. Maybe this was a good idea. Then, just as he was about to ask for water, a voice approached their table, soft, southern, and worn in like a favorite pair of sneakers. "Hey there. Welcome to Miss Claudine's. I'm Monica. I'll be taking care of y'all tonight." She was young, late 20s maybe, with her hair pulled back in a low puff and a tired smile that still managed to feel real. Her apron had a few faint sauce stains, but her presence was calm and confident. She spoke like she wasn't in a rush to leave. Gregory glanced up from his phone. "Evening," he said, folding the screen down out of respect. "We're just figuring things out." Monica smiled at Evan next. "And what about you, birthday boy?" she asked, like she already knew. Evan's head jerked up a little, surprised. His face stayed neutral, but his eyes met hers, briefly. "I didn't say it was his birthday," Gregory said, a little confused. "You didn't have to," Monica answered gently. "He's got that look. Like, he's trying to be invisible, but today's too important for that." Gregory opened his mouth to say something, anything, but nothing came. But Monica wasn't done seeing Evan just yet. Monica didn't write anything down. She just nodded, hands behind her back, eyes moving between father and son, like she was trying to find the gap between them. "You take your time," she said, stepping back. "No rush tonight." And then she was gone, weaving through tables like she'd worked there 1,000 nights. Gregory watched her for a moment, how she refilled a glass without being asked, crouched down to talk to a toddler, gave an old man a quick shoulder squeeze and a whisper that made him smile. She moved like she belonged to the space, and the space moved around her. Evan still hadn't opened his menu. "You okay?" Gregory asked, this time quieter. The boy didn't answer. Gregory leaned in, trying again. "We don't have to stay long. We can eat quick and head back. Maybe grab that new Lego set on the way home." Evan blinked slowly. He moved one hand, slowly pushing the menu aside. "I don't want Legos," he muttered. Gregory sat back. That was new. Evan loved Legos, or at least he used to. He couldn't remember the last time they'd sat down to build something together. He was about to say something when Monica returned with 2 glasses, sweet tea, no lemon. No ice for Evans, just like the note on the blog had said. "I figured this might suit you better," she said, sliding the cup in front of the boy. Gregory looked at her. "Do you know us?" Monica smiled but didn't flinch. "Nope, just a good guesser." She turned to Evan. You like music, baby? Evan shrugged again, barely. Monica squatted beside him so she could look at him straight on, not over him, not around him. That sax player over there? He used to tour with B.B. King. Real smooth hands. You can hear it when he hits those high notes. He's got pain in his breath and honey in his fingers. Evan tilted his head just slightly toward the music. You know what I like? She continued. I like when you can feel a sound in your chest before you even realize it's a song. Like it knew you before you knew it. Gregory stared. It wasn't what she said. It was how she said it. Like music wasn't just something playing in the room, but something you could dance with, argue with, or even forgive. Monica stood back up. Y'all want me to give you a few more minutes? Yeah, Gregory said, voice low. Thanks. She nodded and walked off again. Gregory turned to Evan. The boy was staring at the jazz trio now, really watching. His hand rested near his glass, tapping ever so faintly. Slow, but there. Gregory followed his son's eyes. The trio was deep into something smooth, something wandering. The sax was leading, keys following, bass pulsing steady like a heartbeat. Maybe Evan wasn't tapping randomly. Maybe he was listening in a way Gregory never could. But just when the moment seemed to settle, something small shifted, and it wasn't in the music. Monica stood behind the counter, refilling ketchup bottles and checking plates before they hit the pass. Her co-workers buzzed around, chatter, clinks, orders yelled over the sizzling grill, but she kept one eye on table 7. The birthday boy. He wasn't eating, wasn't even talking, just tapping his fingers like they had something to say. She'd seen it before, not the condition, but the hunger. Not for food, for connection, recognition, a beat. Monica tapped her fingers against her hip, matching Evan's rhythm. She didn't know if he'd notice. Didn't know if she even needed him to. But something about the boy felt familiar. Not in his face, not in his silence, in the in-between. When she returned to their table, she didn't bring food yet, just a cloth to wipe down a bit of water Evan had spilled without realizing. Hey, sugar, you ever danced before? She asked casually, kneeling beside him again. Evan looked at her like she'd asked if he could fly. I can't dance, he said flatly. Monica shook her head. Sure you can. You just ain't met the right music yet. Gregory looked up from his phone, surprised to hear Evan answer so quickly. I have cerebral palsy, Evan added, as if reading from a fact sheet. I can't move right. Monica leaned closer, eyes soft. Sweetheart, there ain't no wrong way to move when you're honest about how it feels. That's all dancing is, telling the truth with your body. Evan's lips parted slightly, a flicker, almost a smile. Gregory felt something in his chest tighten. He wanted to thank her. He wanted to stop her. He wasn't sure which. He was used to teachers, specialists, therapists, all gently walking on eggshells around Evan. But Monica wasn't doing that. She was walking through the mess barefoot. Monica tapped her palm twice on the table, slow, deliberate. Can you tap that back to me? She asked. Evan hesitated. His hand hovered above the wood. Then, tap, tap. Monica grinned. Look at that. You already got rhythm in those fingers. Gregory leaned forward. He used to like music a lot, back when he was little. Evan didn't respond, but his eyes didn't leave Monica. She tapped a new rhythm. Tap, tap, tap. Evan watched her, then mimicked it, slower, off by half a second. She didn't correct him. That's it, baby. You're leadin'. I'm just following. Gregory swallowed hard. There was something sacred about it, something that didn't need approval or permission. A waitress with tired shoes and a boy with tired limbs were building something invisible, and suddenly, Gregory wasn't the richest person at the table anymore. But before he could speak, the music shifted, and Monica stood up with an idea Gregory never saw coming. The jazz trio transitioned into something slower, smoother, almost like a lullaby wrapped in velvet. The saxophonist dipped into a gentle melody that filled the room like warm water. Not too loud, not attention-seeking, just there. Monica set her tray down. She turned to Evan and tilted her head toward the musicians. You hear that? She said. That song's asking you a question. Evan squinted. What question? She smiled. It's asking if you'll answer back. Gregory looked up, alarmed. He doesn't dance. Monica turned to him calmly. I didn't ask him to dance. I asked if he'd answer. Then she turned back to Evan and lowered her voice. Can I show you something? Won't take but a second. And you don't have to move a muscle if you don't want to. Evan nodded just once. Monica took one step back from the table. Right there, between the tables and the entrance to the kitchen, she started moving. Not big, not flashy, just her arms, slow and fluid, swaying gently like fabric in the wind. One foot slid forward, then back. Her shoulders rolled softly. It wasn't performance. It was something else. Something personal. She raised one hand, palm open, and waited. Evan watched her. His hand twitched on the table. Gregory leaned in. You okay? Evan nodded again, slower this time. He lifted his hand, shaky, fingers curling slightly, and raised it halfway. Monica mirrored him. They stood like that for a moment. Him seated, her standing, hands lifted, separated by 4 feet and a lifetime of difference, and yet completely in sync. Then Evan tapped twice on the table, just like earlier. Monica followed. Tap, tap. Then she tapped once, pausing. Evan thought, tap. She swayed in response, letting that one tap guide her next step, like it was the only beat that mattered. Gregory felt the room stretch, felt time stop. People at nearby tables began to notice, but no one interrupted. They just watched. A few leaned in. Even the sax player caught on and started bending his notes around the rhythm Monica and Evan were building. It wasn't dance in the usual sense. It was communication. And Gregory? He was the outsider now. The man with the millions in the meetings, watching a woman in sneakers and a kid who couldn't walk straight build a language without words. He suddenly realized how many birthdays he'd missed, how many moments he'd paid for but never earned. Evan's hand dropped slowly. His eyes stayed on Monica. I did it, he whispered. Monica smiled with her whole face. You sure did, baby. You led it. I just followed. But before Gregory could find the right words, something behind Monica happened, and it changed everything. A crash echoed from the kitchen, sharp, sudden, a plate, maybe 2. It shattered the spell in an instant. Monica flinched and turned her head. One of the line cooks had dropped a full tray. The commotion was loud, voices barking, nothing dramatic, just real life barging back in. Evan jolted, pulling his hand back into his lap. His eyes darted around the room, shoulders tensing like he expected someone to yell at him. He looked small again, like the dance hadn't happened at all. Gregory saw it and leaned across the table. Hey, it's okay, he said, barely above a whisper. You didn't do anything wrong, you're fine. Evan didn't answer. Monica turned back quickly, kneeling beside the table again. Nothing to worry about, sweetheart. Just a clumsy cook back there, happens all the time. You did perfect, okay? He looked at her, still unsure. She reached out but didn't touch, just let her hand hover near his. You did something real brave just now. Gregory cleared his throat. He's not used to attention. Monica nodded. Neither am I. For the first time, she looked at Gregory, not as a customer, not as Evan's dad, but as a man trying to hold something together. Listen, I'm not trying to make y'all uncomfortable, she said. I saw him looking at the music, and I remembered what that felt like. Gregory blinked. What felt like? Wanting to move, but not knowing if you were allowed. Gregory sat back. It was the first time anyone had said something that actually sounded like Evan. Not a diagnosis, not a plan, just the truth. Monica stood again and wiped her hands on her apron. She glanced toward the jazz trio and gave a tiny wave. The saxophonist gave her a nod, subtle but full of history. Gregory picked up his glass. You used to dance? Monica smiled. Still do. Not in the way I used to, but yeah. Taught ballet and jazz for a little while. Studied modern in Birmingham. So why are you waiting tables? Her smile dimmed just a little. Life got expensive. My mom got sick. My little boy started needing new shoes faster than I could afford them. So here I am. Gregory looked down. He didn't know what to say to that. But Monica wasn't bitter. She just told the truth. Doesn't mean I stopped dancing. Just means I had to learn how to do it while carrying plates and wiping tables. She looked back at Evan. And sometimes, if I'm lucky, I get to teach someone new, even if it's just for 2 minutes between orders. Evan finally smiled. Not big, but real. Monica's order pad buzzed from her apron. She pulled it out and glanced at the screen. All right, y'all. I better go before someone thinks I've been kidnapped by the birthday table. As she turned, Gregory said something without thinking. Wait. She looked back. You ever thought about teaching again? She raised an eyebrow. I think about it every day. Doesn't pay the bills, though. Gregory nodded slowly. Maybe it could, if the right program existed. But before she could answer, something in Gregory's voice shifted, and Monica wasn't the only one who noticed. Monica looked at Gregory the way you look at someone who just used the wrong key in the right lock. Confused, but curious. What do you mean? She asked. Gregory rubbed the back of his neck. He hadn't planned to say it out loud. Not yet. Not like this. I mean, he started, glancing at Evan. What if there was a space where someone like you could teach, and someone like him could learn, without it being a charity case or a checklist? Monica folded her arms, squinting a little. You talking about a community center? No, Gregory said. I'm talking about a studio. A real one. Classes, workshops, paid staff, scholarships, not just for kids with disabilities, but for anyone who's been told they're not the right fit. Monica didn't speak for a moment. She just stared at him, trying to decide if this was a joke or some rich man's guilt trip. You some kind of non-profit guy? She finally asked. Gregory almost laughed. Not even close. I designed tech for hedge funds and defense contractors. Her expression didn't change. He sighed. I'm not the good guy in this story, Monica. I spend more time on jets than with my kid. I missed Evan's first steps because I was at a conference in Toronto, and I still don't know what he dreams about at night. Monica stayed quiet. Gregory continued. But I saw what you did. I saw the way you looked at him. Not through him. Not around him. You gave him space to lead. He leaned forward. That's the kind of moment I spend $500,000 a year trying to recreate through therapy, adaptive software, and consultants. And none of it works like what you just did in 5 minutes with your eyes in a song. Monica's jaw tightened, not out of anger, just trying to hold the weight of his words. Gregory wasn't done. I've got the money. I don't have the vision. You do. She shook her head. You don't even know me. True, he said, but I know Evan, and tonight was the first time in years I saw him feel seen. They both turned to Evan, who was now gently tapping the edge of his plate in rhythm with the upright bass. Not for attention, not for show, just because it felt good. Monica's voice was low. What you're talking about, it's big, it's more than me. Gregory nodded. Then we build it with you. For the first time, Monica looked unsure. I'm a waitress, a dancer on break, a mom with rent due Tuesday. And I'm a man who built missile-tracking AI before I ever learned how to talk to my own son, Gregory replied. We both got flaws. She let out a small laugh. You serious? He pulled out a business card, slid it across the table. Dead serious. You don't have to decide tonight, but think about it. We'll talk. Monica stared at the card like it might bite her. She didn't pick it up, but she didn't walk away either, because something in her heart knew. This wasn't a tip. It was a door. The rest of the evening moved in slow waves. Evan finally picked something off the menu, fried okra and mac and cheese. Monica winked as she scribbled it down. Gregory ordered the same. It wasn't about taste anymore. It was about presence. Monica kept circling back to their table, not just to refill drinks or drop off plates, but to check in. She didn't hover. She didn't rush. She just made sure Evan stayed connected. And for the first time in a long while, the boy didn't disappear into the background. He stayed right where he was. After they finished eating, Monica returned one last time with a surprise. A tiny scoop of vanilla ice cream with rainbow sprinkles and a crooked candle stuck in the middle. She placed it in front of Evan. No charge, she said, before Gregory could even reach for his wallet. Just don't tell my manager. He thinks I'm a softie. Evan stared at the candle. Want to make a wish? She asked. Evan looked up. I don't think mine come true. Monica leaned in. That's 'cause you've been wishing quiet. Say it out loud next time. Make the world listen. Gregory swallowed the lump forming in his throat. Evan closed his eyes, took a breath, then blew out the candle. Gregory didn't ask what the wish was. Some things belonged to Evan alone. When they stood to leave, Gregory handed Monica a folded bill, $100 at least, and said, "Thank you for everything." But Monica just shook her head and gently pushed it back. "I didn't do anything special," she said. "Yes, you did," he replied. "You showed up. That's rare." He pressed the card into her hand again. This time, she didn't resist. Then Gregory turned to Evan, crouched down, and met his son's eyes. Really met them. "Hey, how would you feel if we came back next week?" Evan tilted his head. "Why?" "Because maybe," Gregory said, "we could start something together. Something big. Something that matters." Evan gave the smallest, shyest nod. They stepped out into the parking lot, quiet again, but not the same kind of quiet as before. Inside, Monica stood at the door, watching them through the glass. She looked down at the business card. On the back, Gregory had scribbled in block letters, "You saw him, I saw you." But neither of them saw what was coming next. Not the call, not the project, not the lives that would change because of one unexpected birthday dinner. 6 months later, the building stood just outside Auburn, Alabama. No big ribbon cutting, no press release, just an open door with a wooden sign over it. The movement room. Inside, the walls were bare. The mirrors hadn't been installed yet. The floor was scuffed from deliveries, but in the middle of the room, 20 kids stood in a circle, including Evan. He wore soft, flexible shoes and a loose t-shirt that said, "Let me lead," in block letters. Monica stood at the front, barefoot, hair pulled up, her voice carrying. "Today, you move however your body says move. No counts, no right way, just your way." Some kids giggled, others swayed. Evan raised his hand slowly. "Can I start?" Monica smiled. "You already did." He stepped forward, not graceful, not perfect, but full of something that mattered more: ownership. Gregory watched from the back, arms crossed, silent. He didn't bring investors. He didn't need applause. What he saw in that room couldn't be measured in profit margins or tax deductions. What he saw was proof. Proof that real wealth isn't in ideas, it's in presence, in showing up, in asking questions instead of offering solutions, in saying, "I see you." Later that night, after the kids had left and the building was quiet again, Gregory stood outside with Monica. "You think it's really working?" he asked. She didn't even hesitate. "It's not about the moves," she said. "It's about the permission." He nodded slowly, then reached into his jacket and pulled out a photo. A snapshot from Evan's last therapy session. The boy was dancing, really dancing, not mimicking, not imitating, leading. His hands stretched out, eyes focused, no fear. Monica stared at it. "I want to hang this in the studio," Gregory said. She smiled. "Only if we get a picture of you next to him." He laughed. "I can't dance." That's what Evan said too. They stood there in the dark, the only light coming from the soft glow inside the studio, and for once, neither of them felt like they had to say anything more. The moment was enough. Sometimes, the richest moments come from the most unexpected people, and sometimes the greatest change starts with the smallest choice, to look up, to listen, and to move with someone else's rhythm. So if you're watching this, ask yourself, who have you made room for lately, and when was the last time you let someone else lead? Thanks for watching. If this story meant something to you, share it. Not because it's feel good, but because it's real. And somebody out there needs to know they still matter.